There's a woman in your life right now and you cannot figure her out. One day she's warm, laughing at everything you say, texting you paragraphs, genuinely curious about your life. The next day she's cold, distant, giving you one-word replies like you're a stranger she barely knows. And the worst part? You keep telling yourself you're imagining it. You keep convincing yourself she's just not that into you. But something in your gut won't let you fully believe that. Something keeps telling you there's more going on beneath the surface. And I'm here to tell you right now that gut feeling is right. Because what you're dealing with isn't a woman who doesn't care. What you're dealing with is a woman who cares so deeply that it's actually terrifying her. And because of that terror, she's doing everything in her power to hide it, suppress it, and push you away before you ever get the chance to see how she truly feels. I know that sounds completely backwards. I know most guys hear that and immediately think that makes zero sense. If she likes me, why would she act like she doesn't? Why would she pull away? Why would she go cold right after an incredible moment between you two? Stay with me here, because by the time we're done today, you're going to understand female psychology on a level that most men never reach in their entire lives. You're going to stop second-guessing yourself. You're going to stop misreading her signals. And you're going to discover exactly what to do when a woman is fighting her feelings for you so hard that she's practically fighting herself. Let me paint you a picture first. You're talking to her and she's laughing at literally everything you say. Not fake polite laughter. Real, genuine, full-body laughter. She's leaning in, she's asking follow-up questions, she's invested in every word coming out of your mouth. And then something shifts. You say something real, something meaningful. A genuine moment of connection passes between you two and suddenly it's like a switch flips. She gets quiet. She pulls back. Maybe she checks her phone. Maybe she changes the subject. And a day or two later, she's practically ignoring you. You replay the whole thing in your head 100 times wondering what you did wrong. But here's the truth that nobody tells men. You didn't do anything wrong. In fact, you did everything right. That moment of real connection is exactly what scared her. See, there's a psychological phenomenon that explains all of this, and it's called hedonic reversal. Most people have never heard of this, but once you understand it, everything starts making perfect sense. Hedonic reversal is what happens when the things we want the most also become the things that frighten us the most. Think about it from your own life. Have you ever wanted something so badly that you were almost afraid to go after it? Because if you finally got it and then lost it, the pain would be unbearable? That's exactly what's happening inside her head right now. The stronger her feelings grow for you, the stronger her resistance becomes. Her brain is literally treating you like an emotional threat. Not because you've done anything wrong, but because you matter to her more than she's comfortable admitting, even to herself. Behavioral psychology has shown us time and time again that when women develop intense feelings quickly, they will often unconsciously begin to sabotage the connection. Not because they don't want it, but because their deepest protective instincts activate automatically. Her brain starts running what I call an emotional protection protocol. If I don't let myself fully want him, I can't get devastated if I lose him. If I keep my distance, I stay safe. If I act like I don't care, maybe these overwhelming feelings will fade away on their own. But here's the cruel irony of that logic. Feelings don't just fade away when you ignore them. They don't disappear because you pretend they don't exist. They actually grow stronger. They intensify. And eventually they start leaking out in ways she can't completely control. And that's where the signs begin to appear. The tiny cracks in her emotional armor. The brief flashes of the truth she's been trying so hard to hide. And if you know what to look for, those signs are impossible to miss. So let's talk about the first sign, because this one is the most common and also the most misunderstood. She is wildly inconsistent with her attention, but there's always a clear pattern to that inconsistency. And the pattern is the key. One day she's all in. She's initiating conversations, sending you long messages, asking about your day, genuinely wanting to know how you're doing. The next day, it's radio silence. One-word responses. Suddenly, she's the busiest person on the planet. And most guys look at that and think she's just playing games, or she's flaky, or she doesn't actually like them. But watch more carefully. Look at what happens right before she pulls away. Does she go cold every single time you have a genuinely deep conversation? Every time there's a real moment of intimacy or connection between you two? That's not random. That's not flakiness. That is her emotional panic button going off. Because the better it feels to her, the more terrified she becomes. Here's the part that will genuinely blow your mind. The more incredible the connection feels to her, the harder and faster she will pull away afterward. If you had an amazing date, A real, electric, deeply connected night together, and then she went completely cold for 3 days straight. That is not rejection. That is her completely freaking out about how good it felt to be with you. She's not punishing you. She's protecting herself. And here's what you need to notice. She always comes back. Maybe after a day, maybe after a week, but she always finds her way back. Because those feelings won't let her stay away forever. That cycle, the warmth, the pullback, the return, that is the signature pattern of a woman who is fighting hard against something she desperately wants to feel. Now let's talk about the second sign, because this one is happening right in front of you every time you're together, and most men completely miss it. Watch her body language. Not what she says, but what her body does when you're around. Because the body almost never lies, even when the mouth is doing everything it can to. She fidgets constantly. She plays with her hair. She touches her face more than usual. She crosses and uncrosses her arms. She adjusts her clothes and shifts her weight and seems hyper-aware of how she's standing and sitting. And people look at that and think she's uncomfortable or nervous in a bad way. But that physical tension you're seeing isn't discomfort. That is raw, uncontrolled attraction that she is desperately trying to manage. Pay attention to her proximity too. She'll stand unusually close to you one moment and then catch herself and step back. She'll touch your arm while she's laughing and then immediately pull her hand away like she burned herself. And there's one specific gesture that is an almost guaranteed dead giveaway. If she touches her neck or her collarbone while talking to you, that is one of the most telling unconscious signals in all of human body language. The neck is one of the most vulnerable areas of the body. When someone instinctively touches it, they're revealing that they feel emotionally exposed. They feel vulnerable, and they can't help it because it's unconscious. She doesn't even know she's doing it, but her body is broadcasting exactly how she feels about you. There's another body language tell that most men completely misread. When she mirrors you. When she leans in as you lean in, tilts her head the same way you tilt yours, matches your energy and posture without realizing it. That is pure attraction happening below the level of conscious thought. Her body is naturally orienting itself toward yours. But here's the fascinating part. Sometimes you'll catch her doing it, and you can literally watch her pull back. Watch her consciously correct herself. Her body wanted to get close. Her mind is still fighting it. And that split-second correction, that little catch, is one of the most honest moments you will ever witness. Now here's the third sign. And I genuinely want you to prepare yourself for this one because it goes against everything you've ever been taught. She gets meaner the more she likes you. I'm not talking about genuinely cruel or disrespectful behavior. I'm talking about increased teasing, more sarcasm, playful little insults, challenging everything you say, rolling her eyes at you, acting like nothing you do could possibly impress her. And most guys experience that and immediately think she's not interested, or she finds them annoying, or she's just not attracted to them. But what's actually happening is something completely different. There's a psychological defense mechanism called reaction formation. And what it means is that when someone feels something so intensely that it frightens them, they unconsciously express the complete opposite of what they're actually feeling. So the sharper her teasing gets, the more cutting her sarcasm becomes, the more relentlessly she challenges you, the more likely it is that she's fighting hard against very deep feelings. Because creating emotional distance through humor and sarcasm feels infinitely safer to her than admitting vulnerability. If she can keep things on the surface level, if she can keep you slightly off balance with jokes at your expense, she never has to face the terrifying reality of how much she actually cares. But here's what you do to test this theory. Be genuinely vulnerable with her first. Share something real, something personal, something meaningful about your life. And watch what happens to her entire energy in that moment. The sarcasm drops. The teasing stops. Her whole tone shifts. And for just a brief moment, the warm, open, real version of her breaks through. That sudden shift, that softening, that's not a coincidence. That's the real her responding to the real you. Everything else has just been armor. The fourth sign is one of my favorites because it's so specific and so revealing. She remembers absolutely everything. Things you mentioned once in passing 3 weeks ago. That random story about your dog when you were 7. That food you said you can't stand. That goal you're working toward that you only brought up once. She brings these things up out of nowhere. She checks in on your progress. She connects dots from conversations you'd completely forgotten about. And most guys think that's just her being thoughtful or a good listener. But there's actual neuroscience behind this. When you're intensely attracted to someone, your brain releases dopamine every single time you think about them. And that dopamine rush causes your brain to encode memories of that person with unusual strength and detail. She is not consciously trying to remember everything about you. Her brain is doing it automatically because you matter to her on a deep level. When a woman is fighting feelings for you, she's paying hyper-focused attention to everything you say and do. Even as she's telling herself she doesn't care, her brain is filing every detail away like it's precious. Because to her it is. The fifth sign is something you can feel more than you can see. She gets noticeably nervous around you in a way that doesn't match who she is with everyone else. You've seen her with her friends. She's confident, funny, completely at ease, totally herself. But with you, there's this electric tension. This charged energy in the air that's almost tangible. She says things and then second guesses them. She laughs a little too quickly. She seems hyper-aware of her own movements. And here's the really telling detail. Watch her hands when she's talking to you. Does she fidget with her jewelry? Does she adjust her clothes repeatedly? Does she seem like she's simultaneously trying to be casual and acutely aware of every little thing? That is not social anxiety. That is attraction she hasn't figured out how to contain yet. Now, here's the part of this conversation that matters more than any of the signs, because understanding the signs is only half the equation. What you actually do with that understanding is what changes everything. And this is where most guys completely destroy any chance they had. Because when a man starts recognizing these signs, one of two things typically happens. Either he gets so excited and hopeful that he pushes way too hard for answers, or he gets so frustrated with the confusion and the mixed signals that he gives up entirely and walks away. And both of those responses are mistakes. But one of them is far more fatal than the other. If you push for clarity right now, if you sit her down and demand to know what this is, if you confess your feelings expecting her to suddenly open up and reciprocate, you will trigger her deepest defense mechanism so intensely that she may disappear completely. I know that sounds harsh, but when a woman is fighting this hard against her own feelings, you cannot force her to surrender to them. You cannot logic her into admitting she likes you. You cannot drown her in attention and affection and watch her walls magically come down. The more pressure you apply, the harder and faster she will run. Because pressure doesn't feel like love to a woman in this state. It feels like exactly the threat she's been trying to protect herself from. But walking away completely cold doesn't work either. If you go silent and disappear hoping she'll suddenly wake up and realize what she's losing, she'll do something far more painful. She'll convince herself those feelings were never real. She'll tell herself she was smart to keep her guard up. She'll file you away as someone she almost got too close to and move on. So what do you actually do? You create psychological safety, but not in the way most people think. Not by being endlessly patient and available no matter what she does. Not by making yourself smaller so she feels more comfortable. You create psychological safety by being completely, consistently, unshakably steady. When she's inconsistent, you stay consistent. When she pulls back, you don't chase desperately and you don't disappear coldly. You stay exactly where you are, grounded, calm, present, completely unbothered by her push and pull. Not cold, not distant, but centered in yourself. You're not going anywhere, but you're also not sitting around waiting for her to figure herself out. You have a life, you're building something, you're growing, and you happen to enjoy her company when she's present for it. That energy does something incredibly powerful to her psychology. It proves to her that her deepest fears are unfounded. It shows her that you're not the type to hurt her, that you're not desperate, that you don't need her validation to feel good about yourself. And that maybe, just maybe, it's finally safe to let her guard down. Give her genuine space to breathe, but reappear with real value. Don't bombard her with messages when she goes quiet. Don't send her the dreaded, "Did I do something wrong?" text. Let her process at her own pace. But when you do reappear with something that adds real value to her life. A funny observation. Something interesting that genuinely made you think of her. Something small and specific that says, "I was thinking about you, but I'm not desperate about it." That creates a powerful subconscious pattern in her brain. When he's around, I feel better. When he's gone, I actually notice the absence. That's not manipulation. That's genuine connection working the way it's supposed to work. And be strategically vulnerable. Share something real about yourself. A challenge you're facing. A goal that genuinely matters to you. Something personal that shows depth. But notice I said strategically, not needily. There's a massive difference between sharing a vulnerability that reveals strength and character and dumping your insecurities on someone hoping they'll reassure you. The first one makes her feel trusted and draws her closer. The second one triggers her protective instincts in a different direction entirely. When you show her that you can be open and honest and real without falling apart, without needing her to fix you or validate you, she starts to feel genuinely safe. And when she feels safe, her walls start coming down. Not because you push them down, but because she chose to lower them herself. And here's something you have to be prepared for. She will test you. This is not optional and it's not personal. It's automatic. She'll pull back suddenly to see if you'll chase her desperately. She'll act completely indifferent to see if you'll get needy and start seeking her approval. She'll casually mention other guys to see if you'll get jealous and possessive. These are not games she's consciously playing. These are subconscious tests her brain is running to determine whether you are emotionally safe. Whether you're the kind of man who stays grounded under pressure. Whether you'll fall apart the moment she creates a little distance. Pass every single one of these tests the same way. Stay completely unfazed, not cold, not distant. Not punishing her for testing you, just centered, secure, completely at home in your own sense of worth. When she sees that her hot and cold behavior has no power over your emotional state, something fundamental shifts. The entire dynamic between you two changes. And suddenly she's the one wondering if she's at risk of losing you. And then there's the final and most powerful piece of this entire equation. Live your life fully and richly, regardless of where things stand with her. Not as a tactic. Not as a performance to make her jealous, but genuinely. Invest in your friendships, pursue your goals, build the life you want to be living. When she sees that you're not sitting in limbo waiting for her to sort out her feelings, when she watches you growing and thriving and moving forward without her, something profound changes inside her. The fear of losing you permanently begins to outweigh the fear of getting emotionally close to you. And that is the exact tipping point you've been waiting for. There's a principle in psychology called loss aversion, and it is one of the most powerful forces in human behavior. We are all wired at a deeply neurological level to fear losing something we have far more intensely than we desire gaining something new. As long as she believes you'll be there indefinitely, no matter how long she takes, no matter how many times she pushes you away, she can keep fighting her feelings forever. She has unlimited time. She's emotionally safe in her avoidance. But the second she genuinely senses that you are actually moving forward with your life, not in a petty game-playing way, not to make her jealous, but in a real, authentic, this is my life, and I'm living it way, everything changes. The switch flips. And suddenly she's not fighting her feelings anymore. She's fighting the fear of losing the one person who made her feel something real. That's the truth about the woman who seems cold but runs hot underneath. She's not playing you. She's not stringing you along for sport. She's terrified. Terrified of how real this feels. Terrified of how much she already cares. Terrified that if she lets you all the way in and it falls apart, she won't recover. Your job is not to chase her into feeling safe. Your job is to be so grounded, so genuine, so fully yourself that eventually her fear of staying guarded becomes greater than her fear of letting you in. And when that moment comes, and it will come, everything she's been holding back will finally have somewhere safe to land.